So I'll do a reading in a few minutes from Infomocracy, which is the first book of my science fiction political thriller trilogy. The whole thing is called The Sentinel Cycle. And these books take place about 60, 70 years in the future, in a world in which the nation state system has changed completely into a different political system, which I call micro-democracy. And there are elections held every 10 years. Infomocracy takes place in the run-up to one of these global elections. And it's very much about how we can do democracy better. It's very much about the uses of information and how those affect power. And also, you know, it's kind of a cyberpunky thriller adventure election story.
Fair enough. I would say that sounds kind of current. When did you write it?
Yes, I think it's kind of evergreen, to be honest, because, you know, if you go to Pompeii, they have political slogans that were written on the walls in Pompeii, and probably a lot of them weren't true. So I think this question of information and politics is really, it's always around. I started writing this book in 2012. And I know that seems like it's before some of this has come up, but really that it was already going on then. You know, the elections, both in the US and which is where I'm from, and in other places where I was living in those years, were very much determined by who had information and who was able to sell their information. So it was very much in my mind, but certainly it seems to be getting more and more and more as we go.
Fair enough. In that case, thank you. And let's go to the reading. What are you going to read for us exactly?
So I'll read a section from the first chapter of Infomocracy to give you an idea of the book and some of the characters.
Sounds good.
Wonderful.
You don't vote? The girl's tone rises with the incredulity of someone who has sucked up every mag article and vidlet about this being the event of the decade, the election of the century, the most important vote yet, a chance to change the established order, blah, 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 blah. Her echo chamber of friends and rivals does not include non-voters. She's come to this supposed voter registration rally, not only because it's the best party on tonight in the greater Rio de la Plata area, but also because it feels like virtuous pleasure, an exciting civic duty with a built-in conversation starter. In sum, a semi-sentient being experiencing the first election she can vote in. Nah, Domain says, taking a toke. Why, do you? Girl laughs. Of course, I'm already registered. Why wouldn't you vote? I mean, in this election, we really have a chance to change things. Your vote could be the one to make the difference. How do you know whom I would vote for? Domain asks. Your vote and my vote might cancel each other out. She's still smiling, maybe because his voice has a way of making that sound like a sexy proposition, or maybe because of the alcohol and weed, the mild summer air of the dark night, and the sounds of the electric accordion from the stage. Somehow I don't think so, she giggles, which makes Domain want to gag, but he keeps his game face on. Anyway, the important thing is that you vote. It's all about participation. Yes, it's all about participation, no matter who wins or loses, as long as everyone plays the game. Never mind that half of Buenos Aires belongs to liberty and is likely to continue to, and the other half has its head up its denialist ass and consistently votes itself into what's left of the European Union. All this surrounded by a checkerboard of populist and regionalist governments in the provinces, few of them with any sentinels outside the southern cone. How do you know whom to vote for? Domain asks. The girl's wearing an oil-slick dress, and it reflects the glow of the string of light bulbs swinging above the outdoor bar like fires on the water. That's what information is for, she says, giggling again, which is what Domain has been waiting for. Really? And where do you get your... An afro that big has got to say something about sexual potency. Domain snaps his head around, brushing the incipient ideologue with the edge of his due, to see an auburn-haired Asian woman at his right elbow. Ms. Mishima, he growls, feeling his pulse rate climb. Mishima is also wearing black, but in the thinnest of airy cottons, flowing around her body in a way that probably obscures a few concealed weapons. Domain. Imagine meeting you at this party. Domain is too busy imagining those weapons. He considers himself an eminently reconstructed male and is disturbed by how much those images arouse him. Would you be turned on if she held a knife to your throat? He asks himself. Probably, is the even more disturbing answer. Voter girl is still talking. Domain runs his right hand through his hair, giving it a subtle twitch by his ear. The magnet in his ring turns off his automatic translator, and her lunfardo patter goes back to being unintelligible. He needs his mojo back. Party, he repeats, leaning towards Mishima. Is that what this is? She smiles with dark crimsoned lips, looks around. Live music, decorative lights, various recreational drugs, nodding at the joint between Domain's fingers. Looks like a party to me. Ah, Domain takes a long pull from his blunt, as though he had forgotten it was there. I must have been misinformed. I thought it was a voter motivation drive. I suppose they might be multitasking, Mishima says. You looking to sign up? Baby, you can motivate me anytime, Domain rumbles. He pretends to think about it for a moment. I wouldn't have to actually vote, though, would I? No, Domain, you don't have to do anything at all, Mishima says, turning away into the crowd. She's gotten word in her earpiece. They checked him out and found nothing in a long-distance body scan or the records of his recent movements to suggest he's planning violence. Maybe it's her narrative disorder acting up again. But before she can take a step, a deep rushing noise builds over the notes of the alt tango. Mishima swings back around. Domain has turned too, although she doesn't realize it at first because his head is silhouetted in the glow of the huge flaming letters rising above the park, igniting one by one. WP equals dictador. Domain laughs with glee and spins back to Mishima, but she has already propelled past him in the direction of the fiery libel. Mishima activates her crowd cutter, and it springs from its micro-crimped home in the clasps on her dress, a transparent vinyl shell shaped like a shark fin that lets her scythe through the mass of people glomming towards the sign. Jorge, she yells into her earpiece mic. Her vinyl wedge is pushing aside clingy couples, shoulder-hugging friends, and, as she gets closer to the building with the fire writing on top, a dense mass of open-mouthed spectators. I'm on my way. Have whoever gets there first cover any rear exits. Everyone else, meet me on the roof. Mariana, prepare the rebuttal. She hates that word, rebuttal. If they had done their jobs right, the misinformation never would have gotten out in the first place. It should be a projection the same size and position as those letters. Georgina, keep eyes on Domain. The guy I was talking to. He's connected with radical anti-election movements. She can't waste any more breath on this. She's about to run up who knows how many flights of stairs. Just look him up and don't lose him. Another whoosh. Mishima glances over her shoulder long enough to see the flames shooting off another rooftop, but doesn't pause to decipher the words. Jorge, I'm on it. Her translator gives her the words in Japanese, but keeps Jorge's deep, calming tone. We've got plenty of people here. We're covered. Not covered enough, Mishima mutters. The Avenida del Libertador that runs between the park and the adjoining Forza Italia Sentinel has been closed off to ground vehicles for the rally, and Mishima skids across it without slowing. She's already pinpointed the apartment building, a pale facade, latticed, with minimal rectangular balconies, awnings fluttering over them in the faint breeze. She pulls the blueprints as she barrels into the lobby, projects them at eyeball level, and heads straight for the door marked emergency exit. The stairwell is cool after the heat of the crowds and lit only by an illuminated banister zigzagging up into the dimness. Mishima dumps her crowd cutter at the bottom. It won't refold, and it doesn't provide much protection, and starts up the first flight. WP stands for William Pressman, the nominal head of the Heritage government. He's not a dictator, even though Heritage has held the supermajority since the election system started. Every second, as she pounds up and up, those letters are there, burning for all to see, being recorded and sent around the world. Even though the truth, or at least all the relevant information, is easily available, every second the words are up there sows more doubt and confusion. She can still hear the music from the rally. The alt tango has given way to a fast-paced kora steel drum duet, which only ratchets up the tension. Why couldn't the organizers have stuck with some rousing but low-tempo trova? Breathing heavily but still moving fast, Mishima risks a glance out a window on what is either the 5th or the 6th floor. The fire phrase on the other building shines clearly now. H equals child labor, a reference to a heritage sweatshop scandal from a couple of years ago. Mostly false. That one is going to require a long and complicated rebuttal. Mishima pauses at the top of the stairwell to steady her breath and draw her stiletto. There's a steady thrumming from the other side, through which she can make out the occasional crackle of flame. She doubts she'll find anyone on the roof. Any half-decent plan would have the perpetrators far away by now. But the first rule of security is don't be stupid. Mishima pushes the roof access door open hard, keeping her body angled away, and checks the whole roof before settling down to examine the mechanism that's keeping those letters roaring 24 feet above her head. It's a simple enough system. Letter-shaped frames around the wicks and a pump sending accelerant, kerosene from the smell of it, from a barrel next to the access door. Mishima wants to slash the line, but spilling flammable liquid all over this roof is not worth even a few seconds gain, so she settles for turning off the pump. The fire writing gutters and, letter by letter, blinks out, leaving the roof in retina-stinging darkness. Mishima darts back inside the stairwell to grab a fire extinguisher she saw a few floors down. By the time she gets back to the roof, the letters have blackened and shriveled and are sinking slowly down. She douses the wicks as they land. 2 security officers from Jorge's team show up while she's doing so, with their own portable extinguishers. As they finish spraying, the nitrogen haze around them turns ruddy, and Mishima looks up to see the glow of a projection. Rubbing at the patina of sweat across her face, she walks to the parapet and twists around to see the rebuttal. Mariana followed the instructions. The letters look to be about the same size, and she's even added a sort of shimmery cast that approximates fire. But they are utterly lacking in menace and go on for a paragraph and a half, stretching far along the avenida and referencing, as far as she can tell from this angle, the official Academia Española definition of dictador. She turns and looks out across the park, in time to see the O and the R from the child labor message wink out. A faint sigh comes up from the crowd. The excitement is over. The kora and steel drum duo, Mishima can see the stage from here, launch into another piece, this one more of a ballad. The projection detailing the accusations and counter-accusations related to the labor misconduct from 2 years ago appears at the other end of the park, but nobody is watching anymore. Jorge, Mishima mutters, did we get anyone? Negative. Georgina? That guy hasn't moved. He's standing right where you left him. Seemed to enjoy the show, though. Domain has indeed enjoyed himself, alternating his gaze between the flaming subversion of information and the pantomime of excited consternation, urgent documentation, and rapid, vapid commentary in the faces around him. He stayed put, in part out of hope that Mishima will come back to finish their conversation, and his eyes scan and rescan the laughing, talking, drinking, smoking, swaying Buenos Aires elite for her figure, although he realizes it's a diminishing possibility. Finally, he swings around toward the group he was talking to when Mishima arrived. Voter Girl gave up on him some time ago and has gone back to talking with her friends, glossy lips in unstopping motion, perfectly content to be part of this newsworthy, useless event. They're using you, Domain hisses, leaning in close to her, then sweeping his wide eyes around the circle of expertly made-up faces. All of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malka. We appreciate the reading. And I have to admit, I really enjoyed your reading. Maybe I'll even ask you about how to read better. I know that Karen wants to start us off with a question. So Karen?
Yeah, I really liked the voice. I'm reading Infomocracy right now, but I liked hearing it kind of verbally, as you know, just hearing the narration of it in your own words is a really cool duality with also reading it.